After the weeks and weeks and the months and months of the hype and the lead-in and build-up to the 2021 NFL Draft, what better way to take a break from all of those shenanigans than to give you an obnoxiously too early 2022 NFL mock draft? Because that's where we're at, right? This is what we do, right? Like, it's a cycle that it never ends. And this is true. And, I want to call out a few things here before I even talk about this. This, admittedly, is just taking a stab in the dark. It really is. Do not read too much into it. Do not read too much thought into it. It is fun for conversation and discussion piece as much as anything else. Just using it merely as a foundational tool and a stepping stone for the next 11 plus months in preparation for next year's NFL Draft. That's what this is about. For those of you that might be mad and say, my team's not going to pick there, my team's not going to pick there, I don't care. Who gives a shit? I'm just basing it off of the opening Super Bowl odds of a few weeks ago. That's all I'm basing it off of. That's what the draft order is based off of. If you don't like that, bitch at Vegas. Don't bitch at me because you're stupid. Who cares? You know what I mean? And that's what it is. Now, don't get confused. You got to remember that a few of these teams, like if you look at the Bears were like 12th in the betting odds. That's why the Giants have both the 7th and 12th pick, because they would get the Bears pick at 12. What else do we have? If I remember correctly, Philadelphia is actually going to have 3 first-round picks. Is that truly right? Yes, potentially, because they'll get Miami's first-round pick next year because of the move down from 6 to 12. And then if Carson Wentz plays at least 75% of the snaps for the Colts in 2021, or they get 70% with them going to the playoffs, then that second-round pick that's conditional becomes a first-round pick. So I went with the assume positive and say, hey, Carson Wentz is going to do that for the Colts. Therefore, that translates to another first-round pick for the Eagles, which means they could really be in a power position next year in the draft, having up to 3 first-round picks. Now, 2 of them could be a little bit lower in the order. That's true. If you're talking about maybe having a pick in the top 10 and then 2 other first-rounders, it gives you lots of flexibility and lots of other options. Like if Jalen Hurts comes out in 2021 and shows that he could be a starting level, franchise level quarterback in the National Football League, now you're talking about a team with 3 first-round picks. They can get froggy and really build up that team around Jalen Hurts. And if he shows that he can't be, or if you have any doubts at all, then you got to be prepared to move on, because you had only invested a second-round pick in the young man anyways. Then you can potentially package this up and go get yourself a new quarterback and start afresh and build some other pieces around him. You could position yourself well for future drafts, maybe peel off one of these first-rounders for a future first-rounder. Like, there's all types of possibilities of what the Eagles could do here. It will be critical for them to make the most of that advantage that they've given themselves for next year in that situation. Miami's still going to have the 2 first-round picks, because you got to remember they're also getting San Fran's pick. So lots of things there. Excuse me, they'll just have the 1 first-round pick. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to rush to put this together. The Jets will still have the 2 first-round picks, though, because they get another first for the Jamal Adams trade. So some teams are sitting, in a good spot, but it doesn't matter how many picks you have. It's all about what you do with them, how you take advantage of them, what you do to execute with them. Now, if you're going to ask me now, as we actually talk about my picks, and I've just put the picks 1 through 32 in the description box down below, taking a stab at it. If you're going to say, okay, what are some of the common themes in next year's draft that we're looking at early? I think some of the common themes is you might be looking at what is perceived to be another pretty good quarterback class. Will it lead to 5 guys being taken in the top 15? Hard to know, to be determined. Like you look, I've got Sam Howell going 1 to Houston. Is that me saying that I think Sam Howell is the best quarterback in next year's draft, or that I've seen enough of him to make that proclamation? Absolutely the fuck not. It is just me putting a guy there and saying, if the Texans were picking number 1, you're probably assuming that means Deshaun Watson was either traded or didn't play for him all year. They need to draft another quarterback, and they need to move the hell on, and also Davis Mills wouldn't be the answer. Then it gets interesting with Detroit, who's going to have 2 first-round picks because of the deal of Matthew Stafford. Like, the Rams are probably hoping that first-round pick's going to be towards the bottom, but, the Lions could potentially be picking high, maybe not. But if we go based off of the betting odds, they'd be sitting here at pick 2, which would mean that if that was the case, then the Jared Goff experiment was a disaster, And the Lions better hope to God that either Fields or Mac Jones or both don't turn out to be potential studs at the NFL at the quarterback position, because otherwise a lot of people in that Lions organization are going to look like fools celebrating the drafting of Penei Sewell as much as they did. But here's a chance with that second pick. You know, that Willis kid from Liberty is going to intrigue a lot of folks. There's a lot of physical talent, a lot of physical upside, a lot of NFL throwability there. Is he raw? Certainly. Will there be questions about level of competition? Certainly. Like it was for Trey Lance, like there was for Carson Wentz. Like, you're going to get some of that, but, you know, this is a dude that's going to get a lot of buzz, you know, just like a JT Daniels, if he gets more time in Georgia as a starter in 2021, like, I think people will be intrigued to see what he does. I think this quarterback class does have a chance to have five guys going round one, but this is an incredibly early projection. My hope is that over the next month or so, I'll be able to do some preliminary scouting reports, at least of the quarterback class for next year, or the projected potential quarterback class for next year. I think it'd be nice to kind of get an understanding of the lay of the land of where I think they are right now, and to be able to circle back to that in 6-7 months later and say, after the 2021 college season happened, like, where did these guys grow and develop and improve? Are the things I was talking about in May or June, are they still issues here in January? And are those fixable? Are those teachable? Are those correctable or not? But I think quarterbacks will certainly be a headline of next year's draft. I think the defensive talent certainly appears to be better, especially in terms of the marquee defensive talent. Like Thibodeaux, you would assume right now, is going to go incredibly high. Stingley, the corner from LSU, is likely to go very high. You've got, I think, what makes more sense this year coming up is that you've got better defensive talent, maybe more specifically in terms of better marquee defensive talent that's on the board in round one. There's still offensive talent there, but I think the better talent, at least initially, appears to be on the defensive side of the ball. But again, there is a ton of time left to determine that and figure that all out. When you look at some of these teams, like if I was just to give you like a spitball reaction here, I will say this, is that if Detroit is picking second, that means they screwed up with Jared Goff and they screwed up taking the tackle this year. That's what that means. If somebody like Washington was picking there at 11, they better damn good and well get a quarterback. And they're even like here, and I got to say this about Washington fans, like they're kind of stupid right now. And here's why I say that. I don't say that to be insulted, but they're being kind of dumb. They seem to have this opposition to drafting the quarterback of the future, and they keep buying into the organizational bullshit of, hey, let's build up the rest of the team and find the quarterback later. Like, that's certainly one approach to take, but until you find that young quarterback, you have nothing. And yes, you just missed on Haskins. I understand that, but, you know, if you had a chance to potentially move up, like in this draft to get a guy and you really liked him, then you probably should have done that. So I was surprised a little bit that they weren't a player here. But in next year's draft, if they're even close to the position, they absolutely must. You cannot continue to kick that can down the road on some type of veteran retread or has-been or something like that. In terms of the Raiders, if they're picking in the top 10, their target better be a fucking quarterback. They already should have been targeting a quarterback because Carr's not that dude. Furthermore, how ridiculous is it to give a head coach like John Gruden a 10-year contract and say, hey, we're going to rebuild, but we're not actually going to rebuild with the most important position, which is quarterback. That's insane to me. That's asinine. That shows how out of touch him and Mayock are, but especially Gruden, because at the end of the day, he's the big play caller, the big shot caller, if you will. If they end up drafting in the top 10, their target better be a damn quarterback. Because until they get that quarterback that can represent box office in a city like Vegas that wants those box office stars, you've got nothing. Vegas isn't going to give two shits about this team until you get a young quarterback that you can market and you can build this fucking franchise around. And furthermore, you're really capping yourself. Like, even if you said the Raiders went out and magically these busters that Mayock has drafted and Gruden have drafted start to pan out, this is still like at best a 10-win team. So you're not going anywhere. So you got to build for the future. You got to get that damn quarterback. If I look at this, like, I like the position of somebody like the Jets. Now that you've gotten Zach Wilson this year, you have 2 first-round picks. Like, you can invest heavily in that defense if you determine that your offense is starting to feel good about, but your defense needs work after 2021. Or you can invest heavily in that offense and say, hey, you know what? We want to have a big-time offense in New York, and we want to build around our young, big-time, talented quarterback in Zach Wilson and ensure we've got given him every chance that we possibly can to succeed. You know? It's a good spot to be in. It'll be interesting for Miami because, I mean, look at the Dolphins. You say, boy, oh boy, Tua better pan out. That's what I'll say. Tua better pan out. I'm curious to hear from you guys. Like, if you're looking ahead to next year's draft, who are some of those guys, very, very early on, mind you, that you're projecting are just going to be absolute studs at the next level? Who are going to be the guys that we're talking about in March and April of 2022? Who are going to be the quarterbacks that go in round one? Who's going to be the top quarterback to go in this draft? Who do you think will be the top quarterback in this draft? Let's go ahead and get the discussion started now. 2021 draft is in the rearview mirror. It's time to look ahead, damn you, to 2022.